Hello and welcome to Not Alone Today Chronological Bible Reading Plan. Today we'll be reading Genesis chapters 40 to 42 using the Living Bible translation.
Chapter 40. Sometime later, it so happened that the king of Egypt became angry with both his chief baker and his chief butler. So he jailed them both in the prison where Joseph was, in the castle of Potiphar, the captain of the guard, who was the chief executioner. They remained under arrest there for quite some time, and Potiphar assigned Joseph to wait on them. One night, each of them had a dream. The next morning, Joseph noticed that they looked dejected and sad.
"What in the world is the matter?" he asked.
And they replied, "We both had dreams last night, but there is no one here to tell us what they mean."
"Interpreting dreams is God's business," Joseph replied. "Tell me what you saw."
The butler told his dream first. "In my dream," he said, "I saw a vine with 3 branches that began to bud and blossom, and soon there were clusters of ripe grapes. I was holding Pharaoh's wine cup in my hand, so I took the grapes and squeezed the juice into it and gave it to him to drink."
"I know what the dreams means," Joseph said. "The 3 branches means 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh is going to take you out of prison and give you back your job again as his chief butler. And please have some pity on me when you're back in his favor, and mention me to Pharaoh and ask him to let me out of here, for I was kidnapped from my homeland among the Hebrews. And now here I am in jail when I did nothing to deserve it."
When the chief baker saw that the first dream had such a good meaning, he told his dream to Joseph too.
"In my dream," he said, "there were 3 baskets of pastries on my head. In the top basket were all kinds of bakery goods for Pharaoh, but the birds came and ate them."
"The 3 baskets mean 3 days, Joseph told him. 3 days from now, Pharaoh will take off your head and impale your body on a pole, and the birds will come and pick off your flesh."
Pharaoh's birthday came 3 days later, and he held a party for all of his officials and household staff. He sent for his chief butler and chief baker, and they were brought to him from the prison. Then he restored the chief butler to his former position, but he sentenced the chief baker to be impaled, just as Joseph had predicted. Pharaoh's wine taster, however, promptly forgot all about Joseph, never giving him a thought.
Chapter 41. One night, 2 years later, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing on the bank of the Nile River, when suddenly 7 sleek fat cows came up out of the river and began grazing in the grass. Then 7 other cows came up from the river, but they were very skinny, and all their ribs stood out. They went over and stood beside the fat cows. Then the skinny cows ate the fat ones, at which point Pharaoh woke up.
Soon he fell asleep again and had a second dream. This time he saw 7 heads of grain on one stalk, and every kernel was well formed and plump. Then suddenly 7 more heads appeared on the stalk, but these were shriveled and withered by the east wind. And these thin heads swallowed up the 7 plump, well-formed heads. Then Pharaoh woke up again and realized it was all a dream. Next morning, as he thought about it, he became very concerned as to what the dreams might mean. He called for all the magicians and sages of Egypt and told them about it, but not one of them could suggest what his dreams meant. Then the king wine taster spoke up. "Today I remember my sin," he said. "Some time ago, when you were angry with a couple of us and put me and the chief baker in jail in the castle of the captain of the guard. The chief baker and I each had a dream one night. We told the dreams to a young Hebrew fellow there who was a slave of the captain of the guard, and he told us what our dreams meant, and everything happened just as he said. I was restored to my position of wine taster, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole."
Pharaoh sent at once for Joseph. He was brought hastily from the dungeon. and after a quick shave and change of clothes, came in before Pharaoh.
I had a dream last night, Pharaoh told him, and none of these men can tell me what it means. But I have heard that you can interpret dreams, and that is why I have called for you.
I can't do it by myself, Joseph replied, but God will tell you what it means.
So Pharaoh told him the dream. I was standing upon the bank of Nile River, he said, when suddenly 7 fat, healthy-looking cows came up out of the river and began grazing along the riverbank. Then 7 other cows came up from the river, very skinny and bony. In fact, I've never seen such poor-looking specimen in all of the land of Egypt. And these skinny cattle ate up the 7 fat ones that came out first. And afterwards, they were still as skinny as before. Then I woke up.
A little later, I had another dream. This time there were 7 heads of grain on one stalk, and all 7 heads were plumb and full. And out of the same stalk came 7 withered thin heads, and the thin heads swallowed up the fat ones. I told all this to my magicians, but not one of them could tell me the meaning.
Both dreams mean the same thing, Joseph told Pharaoh. God was telling you what he's going to do here in the land of Egypt. The 7 fat cows and also the 7 fat well-formed heads of grain mean that there are 7 years of prosperity ahead. The 7 skinny cows and also the 7 thin and withered heads of grain indicate that there will be 7 years of famine following the 7 years of prosperity.
So God has showed you what he is about to do. The next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity throughout all the land of Egypt. But afterwards, there will be 7 years of famine, so great that all the prosperity will be forgotten and wiped out. Famine will consume the land. The famine will be so terrible that even the memory of the good years will be erased. The double dream gives double impact, showing that what I have told you is certainly going to happen, for God has decreed it, and it is going to happen soon. My suggestion is that you find the wisest man in Egypt and put him in charge of administering a nationwide farm program. Let Pharaoh divide Egypt into 5 administrative districts, and let the officials of these districts gather into the royal storehouses all the excess crops of the next 7 years, so that there will be enough to eat when the 7 years of famine come. Otherwise, disaster will surely strike.
Joseph's suggestions were well received by Pharaoh and his assistants. As they discussed who would be appointed for the job, Pharaoh said, "Who could do it better than Joseph? For he's a man who is obviously filled with the Spirit of God." Turning to Joseph, Pharaoh said to him, "Since God has revealed the meaning of the dreams to you, you are the wisest man in the country. I am hereby appointing you to be in charge of this entire project. What you say goes throughout all the land of Egypt. I alone will outrank you."
Then Pharaoh placed his own signet ring on Joseph's finger as a token of his authority, and dressed him in beautiful clothing, and placed the royal gold chain about his neck, and declared, "See, I have placed you in charge of all the land of Egypt."
Pharaoh also gave Joseph the chariot of his second in command. And wherever he went, the shout arose, "Kneel down." And Pharaoh declared to Joseph, "I, the king of Egypt, swear that you shall have complete charge over all the land of Egypt."
Pharaoh gave him a name, meaning he has the godlike power of life and death. And he gave him a wife, a girl named Asenath, daughter of Potipharah, priest of Heliopolis. So Joseph became famous throughout the land of Egypt. He was 30 years old as he entered the service of the king. Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and began traveling all across the land.
And sure enough, for the next 7 years, there were bumper crops everywhere. During those years, Joseph requisitioned for the government a portion of all the crops grown throughout Egypt, storing them in nearby cities. After 7 years of this, the granaries were full to overflowing, and there was so much that no one kept track of the amount.
During this time, before the arrival of the first of the famine years, 2 sons were born to Joseph by Asenath. the daughter of Potipharah, priest of the sun god Re of Heliopolis. Joseph named his oldest son Manasseh, meaning made to forget. What it meant was that God had made up to him for all the anguish of his youth and for the loss of his father's home. The second boy was named Ephraim, meaning fruitful, for God has made me fruitful in this land of my slavery, he said.
So at last, the 7 years of plenty came to an end. Then the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had predicted. There were crop failures in all the surrounding countries too. But in Egypt, there was plenty of grains in the storehouses. The people began to starve. They pleaded with Pharaoh for food, and he sent them to Joseph. Do whatever he tells you to, and he instructed them.
So now, with severe famine all over the world, Joseph opened up the storehouses and sold grain to the Egyptians and to those from other lands who came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph.
Chapter 42. When Jacob heard that there was grain available in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why are you standing around looking at one another? I have heard that there is grain available in Egypt. Go down and buy some for us before we all starve to death."
So Joseph's 10 older brothers went to Egypt to buy grain. However, Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them, for fear some harm might happen to him, as it had to his brother Joseph. So it was that Israel's sons arrived in Egypt along with many others from many lands to buy food, for the famine was as severe in Canaan as it was everywhere else.
Since Joseph was governor of all Egypt and in charge of the sale of grain, it was to him that his brothers came and bowed low before him with their faces to the earth. Joseph recognized them instantly, but pretended he didn't.
"Where are you from?" he demanded roughly.
"From the land of Canaan," they replied. "We have come to buy grain."
Then Joseph remembered the dreams of long ago, but he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see how destitute the famine has made our land."
No, they exclaimed. "We have come to buy food. We're all brothers and honest men, sir. We are not spies."
"Yes, you are," he insisted. "You have come to seek how weak we are."
"Sir," they said, "there are 12 of us brothers, and our father is in the land of Canaan. Our youngest brother is there with our father, and one of our brothers is dead."
"So?" Joseph asked. "What does that prove? You are spies. This is the way I will test your story. I swear by the life of Pharaoh that you are not going to leave Egypt until this youngest brother comes here. One of you, go and get your brother. I'll keep the rest of you here and bound in prison. Then we'll find out whether your story is true or not. If it turns out that you don't have a younger brother, then I'll know you are spies."
So he threw them all into jail for 3 days.
The third day, Joseph said to them, "I am a God-fearing man, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to prove yourselves. I'm going to take a chance that you are honorable. Only one of you shall remain in chains in jail, and the rest of you may go on home with grain for your families. But bring your youngest brother back to me. In this way, I will know whether you are telling me the truth. And if you are, I will spare you." To this, they agreed.
Speaking among themselves, they said, "This has all happened because of what we did to Joseph long ago. We saw his terror and anguish and heard his pleadings, but we wouldn't listen."
"Didn't I tell you not to do it?" Reuben asked. "But you wouldn't listen. And now we are going to die because we murdered him."
Of course, they didn't know that Joseph understood them as he was standing there, for he had been speaking to them through an interpreter. Now he left the room and found a place where he could weep. Returning, he selected Simeon from among them and had him bound before their eyes. Joseph then ordered his servants to fill the men's sacks with grain, but also gave secret instructions to put each brother's payment at the top of his sack. He also gave them provisions for their journey, so they loaded up their donkeys with the grain and started for home. But when they stopped for the night And one of them opened his sack to get some grain to feed the donkeys. There was his money in the mouth of the sack.
Look, he exclaimed to his brothers, my money is here in my sack. They were filled with terror. Trembling, they exclaimed to each other, what is this that God has done to us? So they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan and told him all that had happened.
The king's chief assistant spoke very roughly to us, they told him, and took us for spies. No, we said. We are honest men, not spies. We are 12 brothers, son of one father. One is dead, and the youngest is with our father in the land of Canaan. Then the man told us, this is the way I will find out if you are what you claim to be. Leave one of your brothers here with me, and take grain for your families, and go on home, but bring your youngest brother back to me. Then I shall know whether you're spies or honest men. If you prove to be what you say, then I'll give you back your brother, and you can come as often as you like to purchase grain.
As they emptied out the sacks, there at the top of each was the money they paid for the grain. Terror gripped them as it did their father.
Then Jacob exclaimed, you have bereaved me of my children. Joseph didn't come back. Simeon is gone. And now you want to take Benjamin too? Everything has been against me.
Then Reuben said to his father, kill my 2 sons if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. I will be responsible for him.
But Jacob replied, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother Joseph is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children. If anything should happen to him, I would die. This is the word of God.
Thanks be to God. So just to give a recap, chapter 40 was where Joseph interpreted a dream for 2 of the prisoners, both of them working for the Pharaoh. And then in chapter 41 became his own opportunity to interpret Pharaoh's dream. So Pharaoh had 2 dreams and nobody could interpret it except for Joseph. And then in chapter 42, we began to see the account of the reckoning of or reunion of Joseph with his brothers, which as of this stage, they still did not know that it was Joseph. So what stood out to you in chapter 40?
The what stood out to me most is it's the interpretation itself. Like, I've just found it very amazing how 3 baskets could mean 3 days. Or it's amazing. And what I found most curious was when he gave the first interpretation for the chief baker, Joseph nuanced it to say, when you do get there, help me. But when he gave the interpretation to the can't remember the name of the person now.
It's the chief baker. The first one was the butler.
Oh, sorry. When he gave the interpretation to the chief butler, Joseph nuanced it to say, please remember me when you get back to your position. But when he gave the interpretation to the chief baker, it just said, you've been impaled. End of. And that was and I felt like, you should have asked. Yeah.
And the interesting thing as well about that is we're seeing that maybe, just maybe, in chapter 37, when he was telling his brothers his dream, it's something of his temperament, which also comes through here. Joseph is just blunt, or maybe not. It just seemed, I mean, that was too forthright. There was no nuancing. There was no, he just said it the way it is, which is what he did those very many years ago. Although with his brothers, he played a very interesting drama that could have made it into, I don't know, season 1, season 2, season 3 of some blockbuster movie. So it wasn't being blunt there until much later into the story before we'd eventually say, I am Joseph. But I found it interesting as well what he did with the chief baker.
Yes.
Chapter 41.
Yes, so 41 is interesting.
I've preached from this chapter before in the sense of, and I've attended prayer meetings where people will talk about this sort of overnight breakthrough. Like one moment you're in the prison, the next moment you're in the palace. and everything is, all of a sudden everything has changed for good. But what stood out to me, and I remember when I did preach a message from this chapter, I titled it the secret for divine acceleration or something like that. And the secret is to wait. Because what we are reading in chapter 41 is after 13 years of an in-between season between having those dreams and these fulfillments, as it were, or at least standing on the threshold of the fulfillment of the dreams. If anything, it even took 2 full years before the butler would remember Joseph. I mean, 2 full years of totally forgetting the person that gave you the most relieving news of your life. So yes, it might look like a dramatic turnaround, but sometimes such dramatic turnarounds happen only because the person has waited faithfully and waited well.
Mine is just a run through of the whole chapter. So, just going back to chapter 40, when he gave the chief baker and the chief cupbearer their interpretation, there was no strategy mentioned, remember? It was just as it is. But after he had given Pharaoh the interpretation of the dream from verse 25 to 27, then he gave the strategy on how to achieve what the dream meant from verse 28 to 36. And then he was appointed to carry out the strategy in verse 40. But what really stood out to me was verse 46, that he went about the cities, traveling around. This is a person that has been in a prison. This is a person that's just been given a wife, given gold, given a robe, given the chariot of the second in command. And he's been in prison all his life. He's been tormented by his brothers since he was 7, like at home, sold to slavery. An ordinary person will see this promotion as, yay, this is me. We'll first go about the market, having everybody kneeling down. Sit or go to Potiphar's wife to say, Obi, I told you. Sorry, Obi in Yoruba, in her language means, duh, here I am, I've done it, I've scaled through. But despite his appointment and the riches and wealth that came with it, it didn't just stop there. It went from the presence of Pharaoh and began traveling across the land, doing exactly what he's been appointed to do. And that to me was so like, oh, this is so good. This is being a man of your word, not just waiting for that promotion and when it comes at you relax and you're not doing the work, but gaining the promotion and putting all your best into it because you're working as unto God, but not unto men.
And this, the expression or manifestation of wisdom in that chapter is also very striking, like knowing when to speak and when not to, knowing when to just give an interpretation and when to give an interpretation with a strategy. It's almost like he knew that this was his moment. Pharaoh is asking for me. He did not just go to Pharaoh dressed the way he has always been dressed as a prisoner. We're told he had a quick shave, he had a change of clothes. It's like he was already being strategically positioning himself for what is to come. Like he felt like this is it, this has to be it. And he leaned into God's wisdom to carefully choose his words, it felt like. And what a story unfolds from thereafter.
Yes.
Yeah, so chapter 42. What stood out to you?
Quite a lot.
Okay.
The most important thing that stood out to me is that Joseph actually had his revenge. He was subtle. He didn't go out right to say, I'm going to get you killed. But it made them go through things. The first was, from the first instance of meeting them, it spoke to them roughly. Emotional trauma has already started. Like, this is the person you've never, for the brothers, it's the person they've never met. They have not wronged him. So someone of that position speaking to you roughly makes you think, what's happened? What have we done? Apart from that, he then accused them of being spies, adding to the trauma. And the part I felt like, this is not nice. It's verse 17. He threw them into jail for 3 days when he knew who they were, but he just pretended that he didn't. It was a bit of yeah. And then the last one was putting their grains and their money back in their sack. The Bible recorded that the brothers were filled with terror.
Yeah.
And then when they got home and reported it to their father, him too was filled with terror. And I thought, and Joseph didn't just stop at this. He kept on with the pretense until he let go. So when he said, and I don't know the chapter where it was said, I'm just remembering this from memory. When he said, what you meant for evil, God meant it for good. And I'm thinking, but you also did some things too. But yeah, you're silent on that. But yeah. So yeah, that was just what struck me. Like, was it really necessary to make them go through that? But maybe, yeah, he just wanted to, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, to me, I see a master storyteller and a good, like if Joseph were to be a novel writer, to be a bestseller, because what he did in that chapter is just it's classic. It's almost like, have you been expecting for this day to happen? And have you already premeditated the depth of the strategies you're going to use to get back at your family? But yeah, it's quite a blockbuster of a story. And yes, we haven't seen the end of it. We'll continue from there on day 15. It's been a joy to join you in reflecting on these chapters today. Hopefully you take it further in your personal studies and chase some of those threads even deeper into the rest of the scriptures. And we'll pick up from there when we flip the page again tomorrow on day 15, as we'll begin to consider Genesis 43 and onwards. Until then, just remember, you're not alone
Today. God bless you.
God bless you.